Hey, my, welcome back to that 70s Card Show channel, podcast, YouTubery. My name's John Keating, and we're going to talk about something, the inspiration for my fledgling little topic of discussion, which is cards I should have by now. This, again, is the inspiration, even though I won over Teddy Ballgame, 1954, tops numero uno in the first round of this whole thing. This was the guy who really made me think about wanting to talk about cards that have crossed my path that I should have in my collection now, but do not. And this guy is quite the exception, and both the man and the reasoning behind why I chose this topic. So, going to talk a little bit today about um, a man near and dear to a lot of our hearts. His name is Walter Jerry Payton. He was known as Sweetness, and we'll talk a little bit perhaps about how he got that name, when he got that name, and how it stuck with him throughout his life. So, little update on the Teddy Ball game. I did end up getting that and the last card in the set of 54 tops, card number 250, which was both the orange Teddy Ball game I wanted and the yellow Teddy Ball game I needed. So done and dusted, as they so say over there in England. So we'll talk about Walter Payton here, and might as well get right into it. There's no mystery here. We're talking about perhaps one of the greatest football cards ever, 1976 tops. Um, Walter Payton rookie card number 148. Look at that shot. 1970s football was really purgatory for football cards. Fleer had put some cards out, and they were just wide action shots. Topps did not own the rights to the NFL logos, so there was a lot of airbrushing going on. So that's why we see a lot of players in poses in training camp without helmets, on the bench without helmets, and then the action shots, they're all helmets are all done blurred up on the sides, airbrushed, whatever you want to call it. So that's why this 76 Walter Payton is one of the most beautiful cards I'm going to tell you, it's the most beautiful football card of the 1970s. Might be the most beautiful baseball card of the 1970s. And in the annals of trading cards from the 70s, all in, probably the second most iconic sporting card of the 1970s. The Wayne Gretzky 79-80 tops / and or OPG is obviously the most expensive. This guy here, probably the most second most expensive by my calculations from a year ago. So number two, but number one in our hearts, obviously, Walter Payton with the Bears. And as we know, back in the 70s, I've talked about it till we're blue in the face. Very rarely did you see a rookie card for football or basketball player in the 1970s due to time constraints. So this 76 Walter Payton card, second year card, again, a great pose. Everybody knows what this card is. And if everybody, if you're thinking, people my generation are thinking of a Walter Payton card, football card, they're thinking of this one. And there's not a lot of athletes that have played the game where we automatically zone in on one card when we close our eyes and think of a player on a card. And this, of course, is what I would guess most Walter Payton or most football fans think of when they think of Walter Payton as a 76 card. 52 tops mantle, probably in that same category, obviously, but pretty big deal, this Walter Payton card. Big old shoulder pads, practice jersey. Obviously, his hair is perfect, as Warren Zevon said in Werewolves of London. I believe he was talking about Walter Payton. Running back, green. We have gold. We have the navy blue, and we have a slight threat of shoulder pads coming out from the neck area, which just makes this such a wonderful card. We'll look at the backside, as the kids like to say right now. And again, I think I like the 1976 tops uh, back of a card setup. We have gray back with some blue in there and some orange. Kind of matches the whole Bears theme, but as we know, every card in that set had the same colors. Chicago Bears, Walter Payton, running back, was card number 148. That 148 blazing prominently across the frontal lobe of the helmet. Wonderful, wonderful graphic from that era. He was listed as 5'10" and a half. He weighed 200 U.S. pounds. I guess they would call them imperial pounds. He went to Jackson State, drafted by the Bears, number 1, 1975. I'm sorry. I believe it was the 4th overall, number 1 pick of the Bears in the first round. He was acquired via the draft, obviously. His birth date is listed as 7/25/54, and his home is Jackson, Mississippi. Few things there. 5'10" and a half. I think of Walter Payton maybe as a little smaller than that, but I'm probably wrong because there was a lot of big bruising backs back then. Very few of the smaller types that thrive today, and he would have probably been an average heighted running back if he played today. But back then, he was probably still a little diminutive compared to your Zonkas and your OJs and your all those other fellows like that crazy cat down there in Washington, John Riggins. Let's talk a little bit about the biographical blurb on the back of Walter Payton's first ever Topps football card. It says Walter capped an outstanding rookie season in 1975 by leading the Bears in rushing and touchdowns and winning the NFL kickoff return crown with 444 yards on 14 tries for a 31.7 average. The leading scorer in NCAA history with 464 points. He led the nation in scoring as a junior. Walter has great speed, it says. So in his line items there, 1975 with the Bears in the NFL, he had 196 attempts, 679 yards, 3.5 average for 7 touchdowns. Got off to a bit of a slow start, but back at a gum card there says double asterisks, copyright 1976 Topps Chewing Gum Inc. PRTD in the USA. There's a trivia question, but more importantly, in the upper right-hand corner of this card, there is that wonderful Topps logo that I love. Looks like a big old fish hook, and just a beautiful logo. And that's trademarked as well, according to the back of the card. There's a Guess the Mystery Bear clue on here. This is clue number 1 out of 10. Who am I? My birthday is May 15th. Well, it's not Walter Payton because it clearly says his birthday is 7/25. And it says for us to see other Bear cards for more clues. I'm tempted, but right now I have other things to do, and that's to talk more about this card and why I don't have it. Now, if you're going in chronological order, you may have realized that last week I said on a Dang Free For All episode that I had gotten my 1976 Walter Payton at the ARA, which stands for Audubon Recreation Association snack bar, and may have lugged it around the base paths a few times, only in practice because I rarely made it past first base as a batter or later on as a teenager in the dating pool. So this card, why don't I have it, right? Well, let's talk a little bit about this. This is embarrassing, but a few years ago, I fancied myself an entrepreneur and a focused collector. So what I did is I put a lot of my football cards up for sale on eBay. And wouldn't you know it, somebody bought my childhood Walter Payton rookie card that I had for many, many years, did not have it graded. Probably would grade around a 2 or 3. But I said, hey, I'm going to focus because everybody's supposed to focus on their collection. So it's one of those crossroads, and I didn't want left. I should have stayed right. And here I am right now, several years later, almost 2 years to the day. It's May 13th, 2021 is when I sold this card. I don't have the Walter Payton rookie. I need to get the Walter Payton rookie card, but I sold it again on this day, May 13th, 2021, to a man named Boiler Russ. And Boiler Russ paid $192.39 in an auction for this card. He paid $5 in shipping, and he also donated $13.47 to his state government for sales tax. Or perhaps, I guess that's my sales tax. I don't know. Anyway, Boiler Russ is the proud owner of that card, unless he went somewhere else with it. But it'd be nice to get that back. But as REM said, don't go back to Rockville. But eventually I will get myself a Walter Payton rookie card, and I'll be pretty darn happy when I do, obviously. So let's talk a little bit about this man, Jerry Payton. Walter's my middle name. Jerry's my father-in-law's middle name. And Jackson State is my son's name. Actually, his middle name isn't State, but his name is Jackson. So there's a lot of connection there. And I've, people who were born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, probably view Walter Payton as the benchmark for running backs. Now, there were a lot of great running backs in the 70s, early 70s. Obviously, we had O.J. Simpson and Gale Sayers towards the end of his career. Later on down the road, Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett came along, and there was nothing like watching those two guys. But working quietly was a man named Walter Payton. And interesting little life story he has. He was born in Mississippi. His father, turns out, he's one of three kids, but his father, it turns out, was arrested one night for suspicion of driving under the influence, and ended up dying in jail due to a stroke. So he was, driving along, probably driving impaired due to a stroke. Police pull him over. It is the South. It is the 60s probably. And mistaken for intoxication and dies in his jail cell a few hours. So that was sad. Walter Payton holds another dear place in my heart for another reason, and that's because Walter Payton was a musician who didn't really play football. And it says there, when I read his biography, and when I say biography, I mean Wikipedia, it says some really cool things, and this is what you would expect from Walter Payton. Boy Scout member, Little League, and a member of his local church, of course. And in his John J. Jefferson High School, he played the drums in the marching band, ran track, and sang in the school choir. So he was a musician before he was a football player. In fact, it says that his brother Eddie, who I know from playing with the Detroit Lions, and older than our boy Walter, the reason Walter did not play football was he didn't want to overshadow his brother or be competitive with his brother. So he was a musician, and then when his brother graduated, the coach asked him to be a part of the football team, and he said he would, just as long as he would allow to be in the band while he played football. So kind of like me, although nobody asked me to play football, I was in the band in high school. So we have that in common. He just ran all over people in high school. Didn't get many sniffs for college, and I think he said, it says here, he was originally going to commit to Kansas State, ended up going to Jackson State, where his brother had played, and I believe his brother probably had left by that point. Let me check out his brother's career arc. Well, it says his brother didn't get into the NFL till 1977, so who knows? So anyway, Walter's over there at Jackson State. He's running all over people there as well. And if you think Jackson State, right now we think of that as probably a lower level university. Jackson State, he played with Ricky Young, which was his roommate apparently at Jackson State. He was drafted the same year Walter was, I think, in the 7th round. This guy went. Ricky Young ended up setting the NFL season mark for most receptions by a running back at one point. he played with Robert Brazil, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame, and he played with Jackie Slater, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame. So that's 3 Hall of Famers on that team at Jackson State. Brazil, I think, would also be drafted in the first round, a couple spots after Walter Payton. So Jackson State, 2 top 10 picks, I believe, in the 1975 draft. Pretty impressive, if you ask me about them, Jackson State Tigers. So Walter Payton, throughout his career, 65 touchdowns in college, 3,600 yards. He would get you 3/5 of a first down every time he carried that ball, which is pretty cool. And anyway, away he goes. He was in the All-American team, and he ended up even more impressive, graduating in 1975 with his class with a bachelor's degree in communications. So this guy is, we talk about Walter Payton being perfect. He obviously wasn't perfect. He was just a man, but boy, he did a lot of the right things throughout his life. And it wasn't just for the cameras. Graduating from college, pretty big deal, in my opinion. He acquired that nickname in college, Sweetness. Nobody knows whether it was due to his persona or his personality, or whether it was due to his eloquence on the football pitch, as they say. Anyway, college Hall of Famer, Black College Hall of Famer as well. So that's that. It says here his breakout performance. He scored 7 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion for 46 points in one game against Lane College. That's a 72-0 victory. Walter Payton scoring 46 of those points, 279 rushing yards in the game. Anyway, off to the NFL he goes. Kind of a mediocre first year. His first game, I believe, he rushed for 0 yards on 8 attempts. Eventually, he'd come around. I think he had a banger of a game towards the end of the year against the New Orleans, because there's several of them, New Orleans Saints. And that was his big breakout game. Led the leagues in kickoffs, as we said there on the back of his football card. So from there on, it was game on for him. 1,390 yards, 13 touchdowns in his second season. Pro Bowls, Pro Bowl MVPs, all sorts of fun stuff. He would go on. He would set all sorts of records, as we know, but one of the things about Walter Payton that I remember is him running down the sidelines, and instead of stepping out of bounds, he'd lower his shoulder and he would lay one on a defender, usually a defensive back at this point. He did his stutter step thing, and it was really quite a thing to see him take on other people. He did not give up at all. He made that defense earn that tackle, that's for sure. Bears kind of sucked for a long time. I remember the Eagles beat them in the late 70s. I want to say Jack Pardee was the coach. Field goal, late field goal, whatever. But eventually, obviously, Walter would make it to the Super Bowl, 1985 season, and then on to 1986 Super Bowl. Got himself a ring, did not score a touchdown, but they say in that game that one reason why the Bears were so dominant was the fact that so many people were keying in, so many defenders were keying in on Payton. I think obviously it may have been that, plus the fact that the Bears were just beasts back then. As we said, he lowered his shoulders, let the people absorb his complete sweetness. Pretty durable guy. I think he rushed for 1,000 yards. In all but 3 seasons. His first season, and then there was 2 strike shortened seasons. One was, I believe, a 9-game season. The other one later on, he was his last year, I think, anyway. So 10 darn years out of 13 of rushing for over 1,000 yards. And this is a guy who also, at one point, broke Jim Brown's record of most career rushing yards. I'm going to look at his stats a little bit here. Let's see here. Regular season stats. There we go. He only led the entire NFL, which is the National Football League, 1 season in rushing yards. And again, this is one of the progressive things about NFL is the fact that they don't count, at least Football Reference doesn't count this stuff as different conferences. It's all one thing. So 1,852 yards in 1977. And then it's imagine being Walter Payton and knocking out 1,600-yard seasons, 1,500-yard seasons, and not winning the rushing title. That's because you had guys like Earl Campbell, Tony Dorsett, Eric Dickerson come along, all that stuff. But he was consistent, as we say. Over his career, 4.4 yards average rush, 88 yards a game on the ground. He could also catch the football. He would average, he'd get 492 receptions in his career for another 4,500 yards, I believe it is, and a lot more touchdowns. 15 more touchdowns there. So touchdowns rushing 110, touchdowns receiving 15. Total yards he led from scrimmage in 1977 and 78. 77 he was the AP MVP, the AP OPOY, which is the Associated Press Offensive Player of the Year. Of course, he was a Pro Bowler, All-Pro. So All-Pro in 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. They gave him a break for a few years. 83 Pro Bowl, 84 Pro Bowl, 85, 86 Pro Bowl. So lots of Pro Bowls, lots of All-Pros. He deserved it for sure. And as many might not know, he also threw for 6 touchdown passes in his career, sometimes as a running back and sometimes as a reserve quarterback as well. Fumble-wise, let's see here. He would fumble in the beginning a little bit, but that would tail off. 86 fumbles in his career, 21 he did recover, whether they were his or hers. Punt returns, never, ever did he run back a kick or punt in, what is that, 17 total tries. So 14 of those in his rookie year, 3 more throughout his career, I guess in 76, 77. This man also had 1 punt for 39 yards in 1975. I can't explain or begin to understand how that happened, but Walter Payton had a 39 yards per punt average. It netted 35. So that was a 4-yard return. And I imagine if I know my guy Walter, he was down there probably in on the tackle as well. So again, 9 Pro Bowls. Heck of a guy, heck of a stand-up guy. We know how great of a man he is due to, such a prestigious award for his generosity. The Walter Payton Award's given out every year. Have that. They have the Walter Payton Award in college football as well for performance on the field. So just a wonderful, wonderful guy all around. Had some great football cards out there too. So we'll get to those in a second. 2 kids and a wife, ended up getting a divorce, I think. Not even getting a divorce, separating in the 90s and never quite getting the divorce before he passed away prematurely. Very prolific businessman. He tried to bring a franchise to Illinois. St. Louis, Missouri at one point. Didn't quite work out. But a very successful man off the field with a lot of business endeavors. And I'll talk a little bit about one of those in a minute. Let's take a trip through some of his cards here. Real appreciative of a lot of the stuff, a lot of the cards he has had over the years. Some great stuff from 77, 78. You see the Pro Bowl designations start to pop up there and other stuff like 1,000-yarder. 78, probably one of my favorites. Him on the bench, elbow pads. Not looking so sweet, but still we know the man inside for sure. 79, they thought so much of the one shot that they used for his base card that they used it again in the NFL rushing leaders and the team leaders checklist card as well. So Topps pretty proud of that photography. Let's use it on 3 out of the 4 cards from that year, perhaps, is what somebody said. Earl Campbell makes an appearance with him. Earl Campbell rarely made appearances on Topps cards, so it's fun to see that NFL leaders card from 1979. 80 inside at the Silverdome. And we start to see in 81, the logos come back on the helmets. 82, the headband. Don't at me about Jim McMahon being the headband guy. Walter Payton made that happen. 82, 83, 84, beautiful cards there. 85. 86, and his final one in 87 was kind of a letdown. That was his last year. Everybody knew it was going to be his last year, but it said record breaker there, and of course that's, I believe, record breaking for most career rushing yards. He was in a neck to neck race with Franco Harris, but he got there first, surpassing Jim Brown for sure. Next slide, he says. Now, 1988, he's gone. Sweetness is gone, not out of our lives, but out of the football field. And there was a giveaway card, Walter Payton, 1988 Chicagoan of the Year. Just a beautiful, beautiful card that if you don't have it, you should probably go out and get it if you're a Walter Payton fanboy. Really, really wonderful shot of Soldier Field, and the Sears Tower is what it would have been called back then in the background. I'm going to read the back of that if you guys don't mind. Received a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communications and Special Education from Jackson State University. Established NFL records for most yards gained rushing in a game, 275, on November 20th, 1977 against the Minnesota Vikings. Most rushing yards career, 16,726. Most rushing attempts career, 3,838. Most combined yards career, 21,803. Most combined attempts career, 4,368. Most consecutive combined 2,000-yard seasons, 3. 1983 through 1985, most games. 100 yards rushing career, which is 77. Most seasons, 1,000 yards rushing, 10. And most rushing touchdowns career, 110. Of course, has his final stats in there, 190 games played, all that fun stuff. 750 total points scored for Walter Payton. Off the college field, his contributions to the city of Chicago and Chicago's youth are outstanding. He is active in many charitable organizations. Mr. Payton resides with his wife, Connie, and their children, Jarrett and Brittany. We pay tribute to the vast achievements of Mr. Payton. He has won the respect and affection of both young and old. So that was a great card. Again, it's some sort of Chicago police thing from 1988, but I suggest you go out and get yourself one of those if you're into that thing. Pretty cool stuff there. His son Jarrett played at University of Miami, wore the number 34, obviously, because why would you not? And then I think he played a season or so in Tennessee for the Titans. So that's that. Now, as we know, Walter died from a form of cancer November 1st, 1999, 46 years old. And certainly a shame, but he did a lot for, on his way out the door, he did a lot for bringing and banging the drum and bringing a lot of attention to donors, liver and other organs and stuff like that. So as usual, on his way out there, he was still being him and carrying that lifelong torch of just being a great guy and doing the right thing. Now, he did shoot somebody once, and I don't want you to be alarmed, but apparently one of the managers of one of his operations got shot in the knee when Walter Payton had a collectible gun handed to him by somebody else. So Walter Payton kneecapped the guy, but it was, I'm sure the guy who got shot was apologizing to Walter. If I know Walter the way I know Walter. Talk about one other thing here. Back in the late 90s, which obviously was in the later stages of Walter Payton's life, as I do today as well, I did a lot of work. I was at the convention center in Chicago. They call that the Chicagoland out there. And in the building, all the lifts said Sweetness 34 on them. And I say lifts, I mean the little cherry pickers that you go attach things to the ceiling. And it was kind of fun. Payton lifts, Sweetness 34, emblazoned across the whole thing. And he had the lift concession in that. I don't know whether he had forklifts as well, but he had the cherry pickers. We call them boom lifts. And that was his thing. And one of his side hustles was being Walter Payton Power Equipment. And that business is still going on to this day. You name it. I guess he had it, cranes and lifts and all sorts of equipment for construction. And the business, like I said, still goes on. If you go to that website or Google Walter Payton Power Equipment, you'll get a nice little tribute to him, and you'll see a picture of him on one of the heavy machineries, standing in a suit with an autograph there. So it's pretty cool stuff. Remember it well. You can see if you're looking on the YouTube, you can kind of see what would be on the side of those, the neck of those lifts, as I saw that 25 or so years ago. Sweetness 34. So that's that. That's our Walter Payton trip around the block. Thanks to that card and that sale on eBay, I'm still on the lookout. Probably need to get my act together. Walter Payton, obviously worthy of having me own his rookie card. I'd be honored to do that again, and then have that in my display case on my wall in my house. And looking forward to knocking that out. So thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening to me ramble on about gentlemen I consider to be a generational running back, 75 to 85 for sure, in an era where he had some stiff competition but still rose to the top. Walter Jerry Payton. So thanks, guys, gals, children of all ages. Reach out if you want. Yap at me. You guys know where to find me. I appreciate the comments on YouTube. Wonderful, wonderful band of witty people that listen to my program and respond. So thanks so much. Really lifts my spirits. You get a little heart at first, but eventually I'll get around to commenting, because I don't like to comment when I'm using my phone, my mobile phone. So anyway, yap at me, yap to me, yap for me. Hopefully we'll see you soon on a topic that is tremendously scintillating and leaves you as wrapped as I am. Thanks all. We'll see you later. Be safe.